I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with the one and only Michelle Visage. Michelle,
Hi.
you're a four-time Emmy winner, and RuPaul's Drag Race took back the Emmy crown earlier this year at the postponed Emmys, and I was
Yes.
happy to be there. I was sitting right behind the Queens, and the feeling was really electric in the room. It was a great moment. What was the feeling like amongst the creative team being back up on that stage where you belong?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that, back where we belong. You never know what's going to happen. You just can never assume. Um, so nobody really expected anything, especially after last year. So when we won, it was genuine, like shock. So I had no idea, but we went up there and seeing the whole team up there were so many of us and queens and all of us just up there from the beginning, the first time that we won. It was an amazing feeling. And you, like you said, you could feel the love in the room. And that was the biggest thing for me, was to feel people watching and paying attention and not talking and just sending us so much love. That's the magic that I felt.
Yeah, and the thing is, the show obviously keeps winning awards, and and the audience keeps growing, and it becomes more and more of a pop cultural phenomenon because it's really, really good. Like if you weren't good, we wouldn't be here talking. And I feel like each season of Drag Race, there's this potential for what are we going to get out of this amazing cast because the casting on the show is so spot on. So you get a new cast every season, and then that means an entirely new chemistry and dynamic to
Yes.
the show. Can you talk about maybe one moment that stood out for you from season 16 that that you believe speaks to the heart of the show for you?
Oh, I mean, you can't do that. It's like a gay Sophie's choice. It's like when people ask me to pick a favorite queen, like
Can't
you
do that. I
actually
would
can't
never
do
ask
that.
that. No.
So I think there's so many special moments that happen on different levels. There's like fashion moments. There's poignant moments, like when Q came out as HIV positive. There's always moments that have different impacts for different reasons in different scenarios. Nymphia being from Taiwan, what it was like. There's so many incredible moments each season that it's almost impossible to choose one. But that's the beauty of RuPaul's Drag Race, is being able to share these stories and these experiences, these queer experiences that would mostly get glazed over because general population wouldn't give them the time and the platform that they deserve. So having these queer stories, you know, amplified is a good word, is super important. And that's what this show is all about. It's the biggest platform in the world for drag and for queer performers. And I hope it stays forever for that reason in particular. Drag is a very viable art form that people are finally starting to take seriously after all these years. And it's a very, very special place to be able to do it. So there are so many stories, Robert, that it's like, how
Yeah.
do you pick one?
We'll
How?
be here till Christmas if you had to like go through
Yeah,
every single
exactly, exactly.
Right, so that's fair enough. If we think back to season 16, Nymphia won and she was crowned America's Next Drag Superstar. And I mean, a lot of us fans watch the show from the beginning and we all think about who do you think's going to win. I always had my eye on her. I thought, she was pretty strong throughout the season, but it was so great to see someone like her win. And and then it made me realize this. This is not just a reality TV series. This is a global cultural phenomenon. Right? We've said
Mm.
it before. And such a platform for LGBTQIA plus artists to have a voice. Do you actually, in your heart of hearts, do you fully appreciate the impact that the show and even you and the rest of the creative team have had on pop culture with this show? Because it's really something.
I mean, when you say, do I fully appreciate it? Maybe I don't realize the impact because I'm in it. I know, because I've toured with these kids for a very long time, I was able to see it progress. Meaning, when we started doing the tours and we were traveling in a rented minivan together, and it would be mostly gay men, if not solely gay men, at the shows. And then it started to kind of change to gay men and their girlfriends. Then it was gay men and gay women, and they would come like with their friends or with their significant others. Then it started to open up to like straight couples would come to the meet and greet. Then the big turn for me was when like families were there. and parents were there with their children. And then we would start to play arenas and have all ages come to the show. And it was the most impactful for me when I could meet a mother of a queer child who would be standing by their child. And I would say to the mother or the father, thank you for being here with your queer kid. And they'd be like, you don't need to thank me. It's my child. It's like, no, no, no. If you've seen what I've seen, trust me, I need to thank you, because the kids that I grew up with were kicked out because they were queer. So the fact that you're standing here and then they tell me how this show has brought them together and made them understand their child, and they watch the show together so they can understand their child. Just the fact that they want to understand their child and they're taking the time to learn, is that, to me, is what this show is all about. Educating, bringing families together, doing it all through love. So understanding the impact on that level, yes. And I am so grateful for the people that understand these humans better because of this show.
Yeah, I can attest. I've been to a Work the World performance in an arena, and I looked around. There were a lot of families. I was with my son and his friend. They were screaming for Lady Camden like as if she was Madonna.
Yeah.
And it was something. It was
Yeah.
really amazing. So I totally understand that.
I
And
love that.
if you think back to the beginning, like when you were trying to get, you and Mama Ru and the whole team were trying to get this show up and running, and no one was
Yeah.
probably really that interested. Can you imagine going back to that person you were back then to say, look, don't worry, because you're going to end up being, this is going to end up exploding across the world? I mean,
I
could
mean,
you
who
imagine?
could even, who could even think that it would be what it is today? And here's the truth of the matter. When people say drag is mainstream now, drag is not mainstream. It's still not mainstream. Mainstream is like Brad Pitt, George Clooney. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's mainstream. This show is created by gay people, not even say gay, by queer people, for queer people. And it started on a queer network, and it's grown and blossomed into something outrageously beautiful and rewarding on so many levels, so many. So looking back, nobody could, you could hope, everybody hopes. Any show that I've ever done, I wanted to be successful. I did 2 seasons of Ireland's Got Talent and it was canceled. When you do a show, you want it to succeed, but you never know. But for me, for this show, it was very, very special on so many levels for me from the beginning. But you can never anticipate. You can only pray. And
Yeah, no.
it's a blessing. It really is a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely it would be. You just finished a Q&A panel, which I hear was fantastic. And you said something to the effect of that you wanted to do What You're Packing, which for people who aren't completely aware, and if you aren't, where have you been? The short form companion series that you host for the mothership. It's your way to interact with the queens and hold their hands. I really love that, because you don't really probably get a lot of opportunity to do that during the show, do you?
I get zero opportunity to do that because I'm only judging what I see on the main stage. That's it. So if the person's a villain, or if the person's hurt, or if they struggle with their parent relation, I don't know anything. All I know is that this runway is the comedy challenge. This runway, they're wearing pink. That's all I know. So even if I go in to direct them on an acting challenge, I'm just directing them on the acting challenge. I'm not talking to them. So What You Packin' started out with me going into their dressing rooms with like an iPhone camera, like it was like that basic. And it's grown into this talk show, little short form format that it is now. And it's my time to be able to hug them, to let them know how much they are loved, how much I love them, to hear their stories, to get to know them way deeper. Did I say something that upset them? Let's talk about it. Did something happen with your parents? Let's talk about it. Like, it's almost like a little mini therapy session, but at the same time, getting to know them and what their experience was like going through the RuPaul's Drag Race machine, which is, it's a game-changing show. This show is a game changer, not only for them professionally, but their personal lives. They've made sisters forever. They learn things about themselves they never thought they would learn before. It is the Olympics of drag for a reason. And I know, having been a contestant on some reality competition shows, it's a machine. And when you're in it, it's a chug. It's a day-to-day grind. And when you get out, it's like, you miss it. You miss it so much. So that's when I get to step in and talk to them. And it really is very special to me.
Yeah. I can imagine, like, I love it how RuPaul says, you know, there's been so many amazing queens that have been released into the wild
Yeah,
because of this show. It always makes me laugh. But think about it. Think about
yeah,
over 16 seasons, all the All-Stars seasons, all the international seasons. I know for a fact that the Down Under seasons have created huge stars as well. There's so many
yes.
of them now. Do you keep in contact with many of the queens over the years? Have you become friendly or friends with many of them?
I mean, I toured with them for many years. So
Yeah.
yeah, of course, I have a great relationship with a lot of them. I'd love to have that personal time. This is why What You Packing is so important, because I don't get to tour anymore, and I don't have the one-on-one time that I used to have when we're in tour buses together for 8 months. You get to know somebody. And I don't get to have that impact, that one-on-one anymore. So for me, What You Packing is very, very important. And yeah, what was the question?
Well, your connection with the Queens, you must make some
Oh, do I
really
stay in
meaningful
touch with them, was the
connections.
original
Yeah,
question. Yes.
yeah.
So yes, there's absolutely. And a lot of them we're DMing constantly and we're texting each other. So yes, I try to stay in touch with as many as I can. And like I said, when touring, it was a lot easier. Now it's not as easy to see each other as often as I want because they're touring as much as I'm filming and traveling. So it's really hard. So this is all we've got. We FaceTime, and sometimes I'll be sleeping and I'll wake up to missed FaceTimes because they're in different parts of the world. They're children, honest to God. I have my own children. My kids are 22 and 24, and all of these kids feel like a piece of me. All of the kids that come through the show, I know it's RuPaul's Drag Race, but Mama Michelle is there in a full force, always cheering them on for sure.
I wondered if the mother, 'cause, you know, mothering I've learned over the last few months is a thing that I wasn't quite aware of. And you take that mantle, I think, really proudly. And I feel like you give those critiques on the runway. Now that I know that you don't have any interaction with them beforehand, I always wondered, do you feel bad? Do you feel guilty for critiquing them? But it's very intentional, isn't it? You want to give them honest, constructive feedback, and then you can bond with them later.
Yeah, I am not interested in lying to them. I'm not interested in shaming them. I'm not interested in tearing them down. The only thing I'm interested in is their success, because when they leave the show, they're on their own. I'm coming back to the show. So it's not for me, it's for them. And I've said it a lot, but having been a theater kid and having auditioned as an actor, if I didn't get the job, I want to know why. So if the way that I approach it is, if they come out there and they miss the mark on the brief, I want to tell them why, or they're almost there. This is what could have made it better. I want them to understand that. So when they look in the mirror for that audition or for the next job or for the next runway, they have me in their head going, okay, she gave me this tip. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try it. And my favorite part, Robert, my favorite part is when they do it and they come out there and they surprise themselves. They surprise
Wow.
themselves because it's something they never thought they'd be able to do. That is the most rewarding thing in the world. Again, not for me. That's for them. I want their 15 minutes to be extended to 15 years. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, I've seen you on in certain judging panel scenarios in the show where you've mentioned to the queens, you've told them you've taken on feedback, and I can see that you're glowing because you
Yeah.
want them to take it on and be better. And I think
Yes.
that is so important for mentorship. It's something that you must have learned over the decades that you've been in this business of how to impart that knowledge and wisdom onto the younger generation, I suppose.
I mean, I hope so. That's what I'm there to do. That's my job. Again, I'm not there to shame anybody or make them feel like shit. Like that, I don't get any joy out of that. I'm not a sadist or a masochist, whatever, which one it would be. I'm not into either one of that. So for me, what I am into is seeing people experience eternal joy because of something they did for themselves. When we have to rely on others, it's a little tricky. So if we can find it in ourselves, then life is good. So when they do something as little as it could be, and it changes something for them and something clicks, it's the most rewarding thing to experience, to witness. It's just fantastic. I
Yeah, it
love it.
is. It is for us viewers. I can't imagine how great it would be in the room. Um,
Right.
like, yeah, it's amazing. You know, can I just admit what my favorite part of season 16 was? Because there was so many highlights. There was like the power episode. I got to
Yes.
speak at length with Tom about executive producer Tom about that. But for me, it's always the Lala Perusas, man. I wish we could have more. Like, and then was it Morphine who won the SmackDown and the
Yeah,
title?
yeah.
Yeah. Queen
They're
of,
long days, those
I
Lollapaloozas.
can
They are
imagine they'd be
long
long,
days
they'd be
because
harrowing.
it's exhausting for them and you feel it, but they are there with determination and they want to win. And that is what they do. Lip syncing should be what they do. So it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's such a highlight. So speaking of my highlights, and whenever there's a snatch game or anything like that, we're all into it. We can't wait for it. But going forward, have you and the creative team started talking about what else you might want to achieve? What else are you thinking about developing for the show going forward?
I think they're always thinking about constantly evolving. This show has changed so much, but the good thing is the core curriculum has remained the same. So it's not too crazy that people don't lose what they came for, but it's 2024. We've expanded, we've grown. One word, evolution. So I think that we as producers are always trying to find ways to stay on the pulse, but to keep things at home where it belongs.
Thank God for that. We don't want it to change too much, otherwise
Exactly.
we're gonna be feeling like the floor
Then you're
has
gonna
come
watch and go,
away.
what
What
is
is
this?
this?
Yeah, correct.
But I must say, I really appreciate how the show, and this is my final point really about the show, something I really appreciate is how you lean into the activism. And I've sometimes wondered, is there ever a hesitation behind the scenes? Are we going too far? Are we making this too political? Or do you feel like, no, it's very important and we're going to lean all the way in?
No, it's very important. And, if you can't do it there, where else are you going to do it? I think we make a point not to get too political, but I mean, voting is a right and a privilege. And, if that's what we're talking about, then that's what we're talking about. But we get a little bit involved, but we're not there for that. We're there to spread the word, to encourage people, because it's that important. We need to encourage young people, especially, to vote.
Yeah, it's really that simple. Vote
It is that simple.
or
You
lump
don't need
it.
to really go deeper than that. Like,
No,
do your
that's it.
part.
Do your part. Elections have consequences, and make sure that you all have a voice, no matter who you are and how you identify. And I think that's such a
Exactly.
beautiful lesson for the show, Michelle. Thank you so much for your time today. I just think this show is so much fun, but it's also so super important. I can see it just from my own personal experience of how I see people respond to this show. It's really, really important. So thank you again and congratulations on a great season.
You are so sweet and good to see you again. And thank you. And wait to see Drag Race Down Under this season. You're gonna love it.
Ah, I can't wait.
You're gonna love it.